What is up, diehards? Wes Monell in the building for AWOL Sports with Paul Durfee, Dill Monell, Leo Holmes. We're hanging out talking NBA. We got the playoffs. We got some great players to talk about. Let's get straight to it. I think there's a heavy favorite in this series. Um, I'm Team Luca, man. I just am. I want to see the Luca Jimmy finals. I want to see the underdog versus the underdog. It should be Boston Golden State. Absolutely. It should be. They're the favorites. Golden State, the experience, there's no combating that. No team in this, no Final Four team has the experience, the trust, the reliability, whatever you want to call it, that Golden State has built up. There are some variations though, different Clay, an older Draymond, an unproven Poole. So there are some variations in the mix for, one of the best teams in this decade. Dill, you saw how they played against the Grizzlies. Is there any reason for concern? I know we only saw one game against Dallas and they blew them out of the water, but does anything from that Memphis series concern you about them in this series?
Me personally, no. You got to be battle tested. That just happens. They're used to, probably in their experience, just kind of flying through the playoffs, right? They probably only lost a handful of games and all those championship years just to get to the finals, let alone win some of those, right? So I think at this point, I think it's just there's that much parity in the NBA right now. There's just a lot of good talent, and they were competing even without their superstar on the other side. So, what does that say about the other team? That means, hey, I'm going to show up every single night. I don't care what kind of experience or how many championship rings you got on the other side there. They showed up and they battle tested them, and that's what you're supposed to do. And that's why they were, the number 2 seed, right? So the Warriors were the underdogs, and actually they won, right? So at the end of the day, on paper, right, Golden State wasn't supposed to win, so they're exceeding expectations, right? Even though they have, all that lineage. At the end of the day, again, it's just a battle tested. That's what you got to go through in the NBA. You're not going to be able to just sweep people, every single series. And Steph, Clay's getting back into action. Draymond's still doing his thing. Jordan Poole, Kevin Looney giving some big time minutes. It's just hard for me to look at all these other teams just throughout both conferences and see who can actually beat this team in a 7-game series. I don't see it at this point here.
So, Paul, we all know Ja Morant won Most Improved Player. We'll talk about the awards in a little bit. Grizzlies had a great season, man. They plain and simple, they just had a great season for them. I didn't see them coming like this. There's some teams that didn't make the playoffs that I thought would make it over a team like the Grizzlies. That didn't happen. Can you shed a light on anything that you may have noticed that any respect they may have earned from you in that Warriors series despite the L?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think all year, just the way they played without Ja, the record without Ja was really impressive, even when he was hurt in the regular season. So that was surprising to me, but also in a sense, like kind of what I was alluding to earlier about having like that one guy. Sometimes with Ja, he gets his 35, but sometimes, you get stuck watching him and he's doing his one-on-one and the offense doesn't, flow as much. And then when he's out, you kind of have to rely on that ball movement more and like getting other guys involved and, things like that. And I guess the biggest thing for me this year was just like the development of Desmond Bane. Just seeing how he kind of improved from just kind of a guy who came in the league as like a 3-point shooter, and now he's kind of got a little bit of mid-range. He plays good defense. And he didn't play great in the Golden State series because I think he had some back issues. You could just tell like some of the games he could like barely run up the court. But yeah, I mean, they have a lot of guys. Like Tyus Jones is probably the best backup point guard in the league. I think like he I really like his game, the way he just like controls the team. He seems like he never turns the ball over. He's just like always seems to be in control. You got guys like Brandon Clark coming off the bench. I really like him as well. Just the energy he brings and what he can do on to impact the game. So yeah, I think yeah, I mean they just really showed that they have a young team and they play together, and when you have that kind of element, you can go pretty far in the playoffs. So yeah, they definitely got my respect.
Nice, man. Well, Leo, what do you take away from that series, man?
Um, well, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Memphis because, I mean, Dill knows I really don't like Dylan Brooks, and every time that gets a little bit of a rant out of me. But for Memphis themselves, I mean, great point Paul made. The record without John Morant, 20-5 without Morant. Like that speaks volumes of its own this year. Teams able to go sit there and have an 800% winning percentage or 80% winning percentage without John Morant on the court. The thing that I learned in that series and kind of learned throughout the year, I truly struggle to call John Morant a superstar because there's no superstar in the history of the league that you take them off of their team and their team just continues to win without another superstar. I mean, you have variations that you can look at. You can look at the Jordan retirement years where Pippen was able to lead them back to the Eastern Conference Finals, but we're talking a top 50 all-time player leading them. We're talking having one of the greatest rebounders in the history of the league still on the team. We're talking having shooters left and right. The rest of the team was still intact. And yes, Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest player of all time. So we're not even going to go in that discussion. But for me, Memphis, I think they're just if what I learned from this season and what I learned from them in that series, if Memphis plays up to their potential, they have the potential to be Miami West. They're gritty, they muck up the game, and they like for it to be as physical as possible. And they have sneaky size. Jaren Jackson is damn near a 7-footer. He's your 4. Steven Adams, a 7-footer. He's your center. Brandon Clark coming off the bench, 6'10", 6'11". You're throwing a lot of size at teams. You talk about the guard. Dylan Brooks is playing your small forward or your shooting guard. You're talking a big dude, not just height-wise, but weight-wise. He's chasing Steph Curry around the entire game. Not many teams can say I can throw a 6'7", 6'8", 230-pound, 240-pound dude to chase Steph Curry for an entire game. That speaks to them building something that it could definitely be scary. But I think when that John Morant contract come up, you got to pay him because you can't let him walk. But I think that should be a discussion.
Well, damn. All right. Well, you gave me shades of sadness within that right there because when you said you struggle to call him a superstar because they went 20-5 or whatever without him, I drew a parallel to the NFL. One of my favorite players, quarterback Carson Wentz, great year, gets injured week 13, 14 or whatever. Team goes on and wins the Super Bowl. Yeah, let's move on. That's exactly what I was thinking of as you brought up that John Morant statement right there. I was like, no, that hurts too much. It hurts
The
too
only
much.
thing I'll say is different there. John Morant gonna have consistency throughout his careers. I give Wentz a season and a half. That's the only consistency that I've seen in him playing at that point of, hey, this dude's a factor. Outside of that, I'm sorry, bro. Go sign Nick Foles again. Go get some few picks. Do what you got to do, but Wentz ain't it.
No, thank you. Watch the Commanders this season. Nah, just playing.
All right, just to piggyback off Leo's point about paying Ja, I think that's another reason why Memphis is also so good is because they're deep, because they haven't had to pay anyone big money, and they have a lot of guys on those rookie contracts. And you don't, in a lot of other NBA teams, you got all these big contracts, and you can't build a solid bench or even like a good 4 or 5. So that's another big factor with Memphis is you still got Jaren Jackson's on his rookie contract. Ja is, Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks, I think, and Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, all pretty much their key guys are in. So they don't have to pay anyone big dollars. So you could see their depth really come through and make it also play a big factor in them being so good.
Huge point. Huge point.